Hi everyone, meet Chief Zoraida Diaz, the first female fire chief of Fremont. Her groundbreaking leadership has refined fire safety in our city. Join us as we explore Chief Diaz's journey, challenges, and impact on the community in today's episode of Empower. Let's hear her inspiring story and hopefully use some of her ways and interpret them into our own lives to become as inspirational as her in the future.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much, Chief Diaz, for letting us interview you today. Starting up, what was your motivation in pursuing firefighting? And did you have any mentors or role models that guided you throughout that journey?
First, I want to say thank you for coming here today and giving me the opportunity to share with your group my career path. I really appreciate it. In terms of what motivated me, I grew up in New York City, in Harlem, New York, and I went to school, and I got a bachelor's degree in psychology and Spanish, and then got a master's degree in counseling. And I did social work for about 15 years, and so my passion has always been to make a difference in people's lives, make a difference, and also to help people, right?
Yeah.
So I did that for 15 years, and then I realized that was a little difficult for me because I wasn't seeing a lot of change with the amount of time that I was investing in being a social worker. So I decided to leave New York City. I packed up my car and I drove cross country, and I landed in Hollywood, where I lived for a little while. And when I decided to move up here, I got a job working for DeVry University. And during that time, I met a neighbor who was looking to get into the fire service. And so she was applying for different fire departments. Oakland happened to be one of the fire departments that she was accepted to. And so that was my introduction to the fire service. I learned during a time in which she was doing her training. I was approached by members of the organization who were looking to recruit me as well. Everything that there needed to be known about the fire service. So you have to get a CPR card, you have to do EMT school or paramedic school, you have to be physically fit, but it taught me that this is an opportunity in which I can give back to the community like I've been doing as a social worker. That was my motivation. The group of people who mentored me were members of the Oakland Black Firefighters Association, and they're the ones who offered a free class. And during that class is where I learned what it meant to be a firefighter. It is a difficult career to get into. It's a full-time job trying to get into the fire service, but I set up some goals in which I wanted to accomplish it within a 5-year period. And so between learning what I needed to learn to be qualified to take the test, I also got together with a group of people, women who were also motivated and interested in getting into the fire service, and we studied every step of the way. There were 5 of us, and of the 5, 4 of us got into the fire service.
That's really cool, yeah. Yeah. As the city's first female fire chief, you've broken barriers and achieved significant accomplishments. Could you share some of the challenges you faced on your path to leadership and how you overcame them to reach where you are today?
So I started my career in the fire service in the academy when I was 36 years old. So if you could only imagine the amount of equipment that you have to wear, weighs anywhere from 60 to 65 pounds in the academy, right? And when you're going to a fire, it's pretty challenging because now your adrenaline is going, you have to, figure out how to get into small spaces. So I would say that the physical part of firefighting was challenging in the sense that as a social worker, I didn't know anything about equipment and tools, right? I had to learn all of that in the academy.
Yeah.
And I went into an academy weighing 115 pounds. And when I came out of the academy after 6 months, I gained 5 pounds, right? I was still 120 pounds. I was kind of small. So in terms of endurance, that helped me. But the one thing that I've always valued is education. So I grew up in Harlem in a low-income neighborhood, and I used education as a tool to be able to get out of Harlem. I went to school upstate. I did a bachelor's and a master's degree, as I mentioned earlier. And during that time, I learned how to acclimate and adjust to different environments, right?
Yeah.
So education was a tool that I used to be able to get out of that neighborhood, and it really has afforded me a lot of opportunities. Through education and mentorship, to me, they both go hand in hand. I was able to learn everything that I needed to do to be successful. So I promoted into every rank. So the way that the fire department structure is set up, you start out as a firefighter, then you can become a paramedic, an engineer, a lieutenant, a captain, a battalion chief, an assistant chief, and then deputy chief and fire chief. So those are all of the times that I had to take an exam and study in advance to be able to be successful in getting promoted to those positions. So over the course of 20 years, I've been promoted 9 times, and each time I had to compete academically to be able to successfully get to that next rank. So in addition to that, I thought it was very important for me to get the credibility by not only working every rank, but also getting specialized. So I have specialized training in hazardous materials, in rope rescue, in trench. I'm bilingual, I speak Spanish fluently. And so all those things were important in getting me to where I am today, along with mentorship. I have a lot of people who have guided me throughout my entire career. Still to this day, if I have a challenge, I'll call them to ask them if they have any advice, or have they seen that type of challenge, or can they direct me to someone who might have, and then I make my decisions based on that.
Yeah.
That's what's allowed me to become a subject matter expert in this career.
Yeah. That's really nice.
Yeah.
How do you believe your background in psychology and social work has contributed to your problem solving and leadership skills in firefighting?
It's been huge, right? So most of what we do is work with people 99% of the time. So whether I'm on an engine or a truck or a battalion chief or working here in the office, my interactions are always with people. In the fire service, most people will call 911 during their most difficult times, right? Where someone, a loved one of theirs is hurt or injured, or their house is on fire, and they want people to show up who are going to be empathetic and compassionate, right? We're all humans. So for me, understanding how humans work and understanding the psychology of humans, I've been able to, have some difficult conversations at times with people in leadership positions, but from a place of what I like to call love, right? Because we're all humans, you have to understand how people are. You can't take things personal. It's not always about you. We're often triggered, right? So you have to really understand yourself, have self-awareness, and understand that sometimes people may be having problems of their own, which is why they're conducting themselves in a certain way. And my job as a leader is to address the issue, not the person, right? So separate the two. You may be having some personal issues in your life, and so you're acting out a certain way, but that's not who you are. But I still have a job to do, and I have policies to enforce. And so my job is to make sure that I have those uncomfortable conversations. Psychology plays a big role in that, because if you're not self-aware, if you don't have the emotional intelligence, you can do damage to people when you're in a leadership position.
Yeah. How important is it for young women to prioritize their well-being while pursuing demanding career goals, and how has it influenced your own leadership approach?
So that's a good question, and I've always had challenges. As I mentioned earlier, I am a lifelong student, so I'm always trying to improve and learn more about my career or the next position that I'm going to be in. So for me, it's always been a little bit of a challenge to really focus on my own well-being. But what I can tell you is that as I get older and things start to slow down a little bit, it's important to really start thinking about how to take care of not only your mental health, but your physical being, by having a balanced diet, by getting enough sleep, by working out, staying fit, so that you have endurance, because the days in the fire service can be very long. I leave my house every day, anywhere from 5:30, to 6 in the morning, and then I don't get home sometimes until 7, 8 o'clock. And if there's a fire, even in this position, sometimes I have to come in if it's big enough. And so you have to be able to make sure that you're taking care of your own mental health as you continue to focus on being a leader in the organization. So you have to make it a priority. Is so important because it allows you to be present, so that when you're having those interactions with people, you're not letting the fact that you're tired, that you're irritable affect how you interact with people. Yeah. Because it doesn't look good. It's not a good look when you're a leader and you're not treating people with dignity and respect and fairness.
How do you believe mentorship and education can empower young women to break through societal barriers and strive for leadership roles?
So, as I mentioned earlier, for me, education was a tool to be able to get to where I am, and I've utilized it every step of the way. Still to this day, having accomplished the position of fire chief, I'm constantly having to read policies, read new trends. Mentorship, I have fire chiefs that have come to my promotional when I became fire chief here, who have played a role in my success and have served as mentors, people who are very important to me. The first fire chief that I ever met in Oakland, he's the person who hired me. His name is Gerald Simon. He came to my promotional. Deborah Pryor was the first African American woman fire chief in the city of Berkeley. Teresa Reed was another woman fire chief who came to the city of Oakland. These are people who every step of the way have had confidence in me, have seen that I have a lot of potential to be able to be a leader, entrusted me during times where I was promoting up the ranks, and so it's valuable. I have served as a mentor because all they've ever asked is for us to pay it forward, right? So I sit down with people who are interested, even today as a fire chief, interested in a career in the fire service. For 20 years, I focus on recruitment and mentorship. And so I have a lot of people in my life right now that I've played a role, whether it's been them getting into the fire service or them promoting up the ranks in the fire service, and I really feel like I've met my purpose. And that's something that I will continue to do until I retire, and even after I retire, is to help people be successful in a career in the fire service.
It's so important to have, mentors and someone to encourage you to keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you share some insights into how young women can develop leadership skills in areas that are traditionally male-dominated?
So I think that I could only speak for a career in the fire service, but I would imagine that translates to any male-dominated career, right? You have to be able to demonstrate that you have the competency, and the only way to gain that competency is with education and experience. And so in addition to that, you have to have certain characteristics, right? You have to have integrity, you have to be ethical, you have to be assertive at times as you're developing yourself in a career in the fire service. For me, it was a different experience because it was my second career. I started when I was 36 years old, and so I already had 15 years of life experience. That's invaluable. But for somebody who knows exactly what they want to do when they graduate out of high school, let's say, or out of college, it's important to look at and talk to other people who are doing that profession to try to get some guidance, and every step of the way look for opportunities to learn. Whether it's volunteering, I did a lot of volunteering in my previous organization, and even here I would just volunteer if there was a need to step in and help out, and in doing so I gained some skills. And so it's important to stay engaged, to know what's going on, in whatever organization or field you're looking to pursue, to identify someone who you can speak to, who can provide you some guidance, and take as many courses as possible. I take leadership courses, I've taught leadership courses, and I have developed a network of friends from those leadership courses who are in the fire service profession that whenever I have a need or I have a question, I can reach out to. And that's what's going to help you be successful. Can you repeat the question one more time? I want to make sure I cover the whole thing.
Can you share some insights into how young women can develop leadership skills in areas that are traditionally male-dominated? So yeah, you answered the question.
Okay, good.
Um, okay. The Fire Service Executive Institute is a prestigious program you've been a part of. How important do you think it is for young women to seek out professional development opportunities, and how have these programs impacted your leadership?
Well, you did a little bit of research, didn't you? So I was fortunate enough that when I came here, I was able to have the previous fire chief, Chief Curtis Jacobson. He really wanted to develop me to be able to step in the position once he decided that he was going to retire. And so one of the things that he realized was that programs such as the Fire Service Executive Institute would be valuable to prepare me to be in a leadership role when I got to the point of leading the fire department. So I went there as the Deputy Chief of Operations, and I was surrounded by other Deputy Chiefs across the country, and we were taught by fire chiefs from across the country. So they would come in and they would teach us some of the challenges that the fire service has and some of the things that you can implement into your organization to help your organization be, more effective and efficient in the way that they conduct their business. And so for me, it was huge. The friends that I have there, the fire chiefs that I know, the instructors that were there, I have now a set of tools in my toolbox that anytime I have a question, I can go to my external drive and look to see if there's information in there to help me with any challenges that I might be having within the organization. So I recommend extremely, that anyone who's interested in pursuing any type of career, if there is a leadership training opportunity, that's part of professional development, I encourage everyone to pursue that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looking back on your career, are there any particular moments or incidents that stand out as pivotal in shaping your determination to succeed and be a leader in your field?
I would say yes. I think that for me, my goal initially when I got into the fire service was to only promote to the rank of battalion chief. I wanted to stop there, spend 20 years in the fire service, and retire. But I knew that I was going to get to a leadership position. And a lot of times what people fail to realize is that if you want change, if you want to bring change to an organization, sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone and take on a position that's going to require you to do more. And so although my plan was to just remain as a battalion chief, and I was very instrumental in moving the organization forward up into that point, there was a time in which I was called to step up and lead. And so, when you're looking to see who else is going to do it, sometimes you kind of have to raise your hand and say, I'll do it, no matter how fearful it is. I have to say that even though I was well prepared for every position that I applied to, with every position came additional responsibilities, and the higher you get up, the more responsibilities you have, and it's scary. It is scary. Leaving an organization like Oakland, where I was there for 17 years, and coming here to Fremont was extremely scary to do, because I'm leaving somewhere that I know everything about, and now I'm coming to a new organization in which I have to build relationships. But it allows you to grow. It allows you to grow. And when you have a skill set, it's your purpose, and you have to find the courage to move in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. How do you stay resilient and determined in the face of challenges, and what can young women learn from your experiences in building a successful career?
How do you stay determined and resilient? So those are just characteristics that I think my parents instilled in me, right? Regardless of what I'm doing. Whether it was going to a college that I had no idea, where I was going, or know any people there, or making the decision to come here, or even to get into the fire service. Those are characteristics that are built within you, right? And so understanding that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you may fail, but there's a lesson to be learned from that, right? So never give up is what I would say. And then for me, in terms of dedication is huge for me. You know, I came to this organization and I did a lot of research before I came here to make sure it was a good fit. And I looked at every organization has mission, visions, values, right? And I looked at them and those spoke to me. Teamwork, integrity, collaboration, communication, right? Those things speak to me. So you have to find whatever profession you're going into, and it might take some time. It took me a long time to get to this position because I started out as a social worker, and despite that, I made a decision to switch careers and I had to start all over again. And so for me, psychology is huge because I know that anything that you want in life you can accomplish as long as you believe in yourself. And so that's where the determination and the resilience comes into play. You have to believe in yourself and then know that there's going to be some, challenges, but continue to push forward. And you'll see as you start to establish those goals. I like to write down a bunch of things that I want to accomplish and then start crossing. I like to make lists and cross things off my list, right? And so as you start to do that, you start to gain some confidence in yourself. And the more you do it, the more you focus on building relationships with other people, because the fire service is just one entity, but this is the city of Fremont, and I have to work and collaborate with other departments to move the goals of the council members, the mayor, the city manager. We all work together to try to accomplish the same goal, which is to protect and serve the citizens of Fremont.
Yeah. As a trailblazing leader, what are some of the initiatives you're implementing within the fire department to foster an inclusive environment and encourage more young women to consider careers in firefighting and emergency services?
Sometimes you have to have courage. So right now I have an academy of 18 people that we just recruited. That class has 5 women that are in the academy. Excuse me. And so what we've done is that we have what's called the Human Relations Committee here in Fremont in the fire department. And we have a group of people who represent the community that we serve. So we have men, women, non-binary members of the community who make up this group. And what they do is long and short-term recruitment. So they go to high schools. We have an Explorer program here in Fremont. We have what's called a public service assistant position, which gives people an opportunity to kind of see what it is that we do. We go out and recruit every day. Like I mentioned earlier, that's my passion. So every time I have an opportunity to speak to somebody who might look like they're physically fit, or this might be something that they're interested in, I talk to them about a career in the fire service. So our group, the HRC committee, Human Relations Committee, they're in charge of recruitment. We're also now starting a mentoring program where we give people an opportunity who work on ambulances to come and do ride-alongs and talk to members of the organization. And so you have to think long and short terms. We want to continue to build a relationship with Mission ROP High School and look to see how we can get more members of the Fremont community interested in the fire service. And so in addition to that, I'm very passionate about teaching about diversity and equity and inclusion and belonging. And this organization is really good about making you feel like you belong. And so those are the things that I'm going to continue to do for as long as I'm here, to make sure that we, provide, women and men, people of color, an opportunity to work here and serve here in the city of Fremont.
Yeah. Especially your last question. As a role model and pioneer, what message would you like to convey to young women who are listening to this interview and maybe considering their own career paths and leadership aspirations?
So I would say to anyone listening to this, I always say this: if I can do it, you can do it too, right? And I say this because I came into the fire service a little bit older. I was 36 years old when I started in the academy. And so I knew that I had to get to work really quickly, right? To get to where I am now, just 20 years after joining the fire service because I had a different career. So what I would say is I'm someone who knew absolutely nothing about, engines and trucks and hose and ladders, and I had to learn it. And so anything that you're interested in doing in life, whether it's traditional or non-traditional, the only person who can stop you from accomplishing those goals is yourself. If you make the decision that you want to focus in a career and be a leader within that career, then no one's going to stop you. No one will stop you. Just make sure that you have people around you that you can trust and that you trust will give you good advice, and always make decisions that are ethical and with integrity, and make sure that it's in the best interest of the people that you're serving. That's what I would recommend to anyone pursuing a career, specifically in the fire service. And if you're interested in becoming a firefighter or wanting to learn more about becoming a firefighter, please reach out, do a ride along. We're here to make sure that if this is something you're interested in, you'll be successful at it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chief Diaz.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of this exceptional episode, where we had the privilege of hearing from Chief Zoraida Diaz, the first female fire chief who's truly set the world ablaze with her achievements. Thank you for tuning in, and remember to stay connected with us for more incredible stories and conversations.